This video contains negative opinions that could adversely affect your... Okay, enough! Stop! Stop! Thanks. Thank you. Ugh. God damn it! Seeing as how I haven't really got much to watch this season, thanks to most of it being sequels or random stuff I couldn't care less about, like My Girlfriend is a Faithful Virgin Bitch, for example, I've decided to talk about a couple anime I've read the manga of and find much better than their anime counterparts. That's right, folks, I'm going to be talking about Black Clover and UQ Holder. Two anime about young, spiky-haired kids stepping into a world of adventure with a dark-haired rival/friend by their side. To start off with, like I said, these two anime are ones I am not watching, and not only because I've already read the stories in their manga. I tried the first episode of Black Clover, and like most people who decided shaving their face with a cheese grater was better time spent than listening to that terroristic screeching from Asta, I gave up after the first episode. In fact, I couldn't even get through the entire first episode, and I stopped about halfway through. However, I won't be talking much about this particular anime since you can find its problems and shortcomings covered very well in other videos. Still, the biggest problem with Black Clover isn't even the screeching, though that is really bad. It's the fact that the story starts out so super generic. It was so unappealing to me even reading through the first few chapters of the manga. It took me a long time to start warming up to these characters in the story, about 50 chapters long. So the fact that the anime is already introducing filler into an already uninteresting first story arc is one step too far for me to bear, considering the time it takes to read through a chapter versus watching a full 22-minute episode of anime. If the studio had decided to skip through and jettison a lot of the garbage the manga spent time on, the anime would have been better for it. And with the announcement that this new shonen is getting a whopping 51 episodes devoted to it, Jesus Christ, that's a lot, I can't imagine this is going to be an easy journey, especially with the studio's pedigree, mentioned in more detail in Giguk's video on the same show. The worst part of all of this, for me personally, is that the story does actually get more interesting as time goes on, which is a common refrain you'll be hearing from any manga reader you meet. The story actually gets more creative, surprise surprise, when there's more options to pick and choose from with the various magics they introduce. And even a few of the characters become less of their archetypes and as a result, deeper as people, even if it's just for a joke. At the beginning, for example, a lot of the captains are just people managing their respective teams, these icons instead of actual characters. But the ties and rivalries that bind them all together to their fellow captains, their city, their emperor, and even the people in the kingdom all reveal them as characters in neat little ways. So while it's not all bad, I definitely recommend just reading the manga instead. On the flip side of this, UQ Holder actually goes too far in the other direction, and decides to skip out on some of the more interesting arcs in favor of more members of the harem. What to do? Santa, one of the characters from the manga, and his arc are entirely cut from the story to make room for the main thrust of what makes this anime a sequel to Negama, confronting the big bad evil from the previous series, well, the manga, because the anime never really got that far. As a result, it's kind of appropriate that UQ Holder would follow in its predecessor's footsteps of adamantly refusing to follow the manga. Why do you hate us? Why do you hate the manga? Why? It's so good. Anyway, as you can tell from my begging and pleading, Negama never really had a proper adaptation, which is a damn shame considering how impressive and interesting, again, the characters became once they were given more options in the magical realm. Still, despite this error in judgment, at least in my opinion, UQ Holder managed to keep me watching for a couple of episodes, instead of the half of one Black Clover did. Part of this is because the show actually has a good start, without the overplayed tropes of sad loner outcast from society with something to prove. Instead, Toda is living a relatively happy life with his mentor Evangeline, along with a group of friends that he made, at least until he runs into someone hunting his master and is then brutally murdered alongside his teacher. Luckily, since Evangeline is a vampire, such rapid dismemberment isn't enough to kill her, and after convincing Toda to lick her blood off the ground, yeah, that's super sanitary, Toda joins the ranks of immortals. All in one episode, without bothering with pointless flashbacks that disrupt the pacing of the story. Not only does this allow the audience an incredible mood whiplash, in line with the famous ending of the first episode to Gakagurashi with its sudden, brutal death, but it also gives you a mystery and interesting questions in what being an immortal means, especially for the main character. Unlocking forbidden or unknown magic is all well and good, but it's not often the main character to a show is an immortal vampire. And the other one that comes to mind most easily is one of our anime's favorite incestuous sexual deviants. I'll let you guess which one that is. Suffice to say, I liked UQ Holder better, since it had a much stronger start, but as I said earlier, Black Clover manages to come into its own a little better, at least later on. Though I have very low hopes for the anime considering the episode counts. In both cases, I think it's much more preferable just to read the manga, because in UQ Holder's case, the art is much more beautiful there than it is in motion with whoever animated it. As for Black Clover, while the animation is impressive in some areas, it's still Studio Pierrot, which means it will most likely suffer and start to be super lame later on. But hey, that's just me. What do you think about these two anime? Are you loving the dub or the sub for Black Clover? Liking what you see, or are you going to be like me and just be content with the manga? Whatever your answers, I hope to see you next time, so subscribe, click that notification button, and make sure you give me all your money on Patreon so I can make more videos like this, and much better ones like my Ancient Magus' Bride video that I made a couple weeks ago. People have been really liking that one. And remember, always enjoy the way you watch anime, because as long as you're having fun, that's all that really matters. See you next time.